If you don't know the meaning of a word, you can look it up in the dictionary. I came across an interesting article on the internet. I finally got around to cleaning up my room last night. I usually wake up at 7 o'clock. I handed in my homework to the teacher. So these are all examples of phrasal verbs. A phrasal verb is a verb that consists of two parts. For example, look up consists of a verb part and a particle part. So look is the verb, up is the particle. Some grammar books will call this an adverb particle. Some books will just say particle. Well, we will use particle today. So phrasal verbs are very common in English, especially in conversational English. In informal conversation, you will hear phrasal verbs all the time, but really in any kind of English, phrasal verbs are very common. Phrasal verbs will often have multiple meanings, which can make them a little bit confusing to study. For example, take check out. Check out has many different meanings. You could say, please check out of the hotel room before 12. So to check out of the hotel room means to pay the money and take all the stuff out of the room and leave your hotel. But you can say, you can check out a book out of the library. So to check a book out of the library means to borrow a book from the library. Or you can say, before you buy a car, it's important that you check it out carefully. Here, check out means to examine the car. Or you could say, street performers, check it out, which would mean to look at something interesting. Or you can say, I finished my shopping and I'm ready to check out now. So to check out when you're shopping means to go to the cash register and pay the money for your groceries. Phrasal verbs also often have idiomatic meanings. Now, an idiom means two or more words together that take a new meaning. And you can't guess the meaning by looking at the individual words. Let's use look up again as an example. Look up has a literal meaning. I looked up at the sky. This is the literal meaning, so it means exactly what the words mean. So looking up. But it also has an idiomatic meaning. I looked up a new word in the dictionary. So to look up a word in the dictionary means to take the dictionary and search for the meaning of the word. Now, this is the idiomatic meaning, so you can't guess it. Even if you know the meaning of the word look, and even if you know the meaning of the word up, you could not guess that look up means to check for the meaning of a word in the dictionary. Or here's another one. I look up to Michelle Obama. So to look up to someone means to respect or admire them. That's another idiomatic meaning. Now, some phrasal verbs have objects, and we call this transitive. A transitive verb is a verb that has an object. So he cut down the tree, just like in the picture. He cut down the tree. This means cut down is the phrasal verb, and the tree is the object. What did he cut down? He cut down the tree. Now, if the phrasal verb is transitive, sometimes the transitive phrasal verbs are separable. Separable means you can separate them. So it means the object can go in between the verb and the particle. For example, he cut down the tree can also be he cut the tree down. We have a verb, object, particle. So here the verb and the particle are together, but here the verb and the particle get separated and the object goes in between them. Now, he cut down the tree and he cut the tree down. Both are correct. They're both perfectly fine English sentences. There's no difference in meaning, and the separation is optional, meaning you can say he cut down the tree, or you can say he cut the tree down. It's your choice. They're both okay. But if the object is a pronoun, then you must separate the verb and the particle. Now, here are, again, the object pronouns in English: me, us, you, him, her, it, them. If one of these is as the object, then you have to separate it. So you can say he cut down the tree, and you can say he cut the tree down. But if you change the tree to it, then you have to say he cut it down. You can't say he cut down it. That's not a good English sentence. So if it's a pronoun, you must separate it. If it's a noun, you can separate it or you cannot. It's your choice. But some transitive phrasal verbs are inseparable, meaning you can't separate them. So some transitive phrasal verbs cannot be separated. An example is she looked after the children. Now, look after means to take care of. So here we have the phrasal verb and the object. She looked after the children is okay, but she looked the children after is not a good English sentence. This is an inseparable phrasal verb. We can't separate the verb and the particle, even with a pronoun. So she looked after the children, she looked after them. It's inseparable, so the pronoun comes after. She looked the children after is wrong. She looked them after is wrong. This one is inseparable. So how do you know which transitive phrasal verbs are separable and which ones are inseparable? Unfortunately, there's really no good rule here. You just have to check the dictionary, memorize each phrasal verb individually as either separable or inseparable. You just have to remember it on a case-by-case basis. Now, there are some phrasal verbs that are always separated. For example, get through with the meaning of communicate. He got the message through to his friend. This case, it's always separated. So we can say got the message through, but we can't say got through the message because this is an always separated phrasal verb. Or see through with the meaning of survive. We'll see the trouble through, but we can't say we'll see through the trouble. Now, the number of phrasal verbs that are always separated are very small in English. It's a very small number. And they usually have a non-separable form with a different meaning. For example, let's get through the lesson, meaning finish. Here it's non-separable and the meaning is different. The meaning means finish. Or we saw through his lie. Again, here it's non-separable and the meaning is different. The meaning is not tricked by. Some phrasal verbs don't have an object, and we're going to call this intransitive, verbs that don't have an object. So children grow up fast. Here we have the phrasal verb, Now, fast is actually not an object. Even though it's after the verb, it's an adverb. It's describing how do they grow up. How do they grow up? They grow up fast. But it's not a noun, so it's not an object. So this is an intransitive phrasal verb. Intransitive phrasal verbs are never separable. You can't separate them. So you can't say children grow fast up. That's a bad sentence in English. But be careful here because sometimes a phrasal verb can have both transitive and intransitive meanings. We already talked about how phrasal verbs often have many different meanings. Here's an example. You need to calm down. This is an intransitive meaning. There's no object, and so it's inseparable. But we can also say he calmed the baby down. Here, it is transitive. What did he calm down? He calmed the baby down. So because it's transitive, it's separable. We can put the baby in between calm and down. So just be careful on that. Sometimes a phrasal verb can be inseparable with an intransitive meaning, but separable with a transitive meaning. There's also another type, which is a verb plus a preposition. So let's go back to our definition of a phrasal verb. It's a verb plus a particle. The particle in this case is up. But if you check the dictionary, one of the meanings of up is a preposition. And here we come to the difficult part. Particles look like prepositions. Very often the particle will have a preposition with the same form. But if it's a particle or if it's a preposition, the sentence grammar will be different. So here's an example. He turned off the light, meaning the light switches on, he turned it off, and it goes from bright to dark. Now in this case, we have a phrasal verb with a verb and a particle and a direct object. It's transitive. But turn off can also be used with a verb plus a prepositional phrase. For example, he turned off the road. So here we have, so he turned off the road, meaning he's on the main road and then he decides to turn off of the road onto another street. He turned off the road. So here we have a verb, but then off is being used as a preposition. Where did he turn? He turned off the road, and the road here being a noun. So there's a difference in grammar between whether we're considering it a phrasal verb and a verb plus preposition. To look at this, you have to think about the unit of meaning. So he turned off the light. Turned off is functioning as one unit here. It's just like one verb. Where he turned off the road, here off is connecting with the road. Where did he turn? He turned off the road. Now, some phrasal verbs are separable, as we looked at before. So you can say he turned off the light or he turned the light off. But the verb plus preposition can never be separated, at least not by an object. So you can't say he turned the road off. That's a bad English sentence. But a verb plus preposition will allow an adverb in between. So he turned quickly off the road. Here, because it's a preposition, we can put an adverb in between. But the phrasal verbs can't have an adverb in between. So you can't say he turned quickly off the light. This is a bad English sentence. You could say he turned off the light quickly, or you could say he turned the light off quickly. You can have quickly at the end, but you can't have quickly in the middle of the phrasal verb. Now, transitive phrasal verbs can be put into the passive. The light was turned off. But the verb plus preposition cannot be passive. So the road was turned off. You can't say this. It's a bad English sentence. So those are some rules to help you. But all that being said, in many cases, it's very difficult to tell if it's a phrasal verb or it's a verb plus a preposition. So is this a particle or is this a preposition? In some cases, it's very difficult to tell, even for the experts, even for the people who study grammar. So many grammar books will not bother with the difference between a phrasal verb and a verb plus a preposition. They'll just put them all together as phrasal verbs or multi-part verbs. There's one more class, and this is the 3-word verb, or sometimes it's called a phrasal verb plus preposition. So for example, I want to cut down on coffee. This means I want to reduce the amount of coffee I drink. Would you like a cup of coffee? No, thank you. I want to cut down on coffee. So here we have a phrasal verb, the main verb, a particle, plus a preposition. So this would be the 3-word verb. And these cannot be separated. It's just 3 words together. They don't separate. So to review, we've looked at a number of different types. There are transitive phrasal verbs, transitive meaning they have an object, which come in 2 types: separable, he cut the tree down, and inseparable, he looked after the child. Then there are intransitive phrasal verbs, like children grow up fast. There's verbs plus preposition, he turned off the road. And there's 3-word verbs, or phrasal verb plus a preposition, like she broke up with her boyfriend. So those are all the main categories. For the rest of the video, we're just going to look at some common phrasal verbs. Now, as we said before, phrasal verbs are extremely common in English. So it would be impossible in one video to list all of the common phrasal verbs. These are just some of them to get you started on your studying. And we're going to start with the inseparable phrasal verbs, so the ones that cannot be separated with an object. So amount to, this means to be the same as, or to turn out to be. For example, the total amounts to 500. Or some people thought he would not amount to anything, but he became famous. Apply for, this means to make a request. For example, do you plan to apply for a summer job? Ask around. This means to ask several people. For example, I'll ask around in case anyone found a lost phone. Or break down. This means to stop functioning, to stop working. For example, the car broke down yesterday. Break up means to end a relationship. For example, did you hear that Laura and Bobby broke up? Calm down, which means to relax after being angry. For example, you need to calm down. Check in, which means to register at a hotel or at an airport. For example, we can't check in to the hotel until 1 o'clock. Check out, which means to leave a hotel. He checked out of the hotel at 10:20. Cheer up, meaning to become happier. For example, cheer up, I'm sure your team will do better next time. Come across means to find something unexpectedly. that you weren't expecting to find it, but you found it by accident. For example, I came across a very interesting article about crocodiles. Come from means to originate in. For example, mangoes originally come from Asia. Count on meaning to rely on or depend on. For example, please be there on time. I'm counting on you. Dress up, meaning to wear nice clothes or wear fancy clothes. For example, Mom, do I really need to dress up for the party? Eat out, which means to eat at a restaurant. For example, last Saturday, we ate out at a pizza restaurant. End up, which means to eventually do or decide to do after some time. So after talking about it for a long time, we ended up going to the movies last night. Engage in. This means to take part in. So the principal engaged in talks with the student council, for example. Fall apart. This one means to break into little pieces. So for example, I need a new desk. My old desk is falling apart. Fall down. Now this means to fall to the ground. For example, I fell down and broke my ankle. Find out. This means to learn something. So example, I was so excited when I found out we were going to Spain. To fit in means to belong to a group because you are similar. So teenagers will wear certain clothes to fit in with their friends. Get along. This means to be friendly with someone. For example, I really like Tom. We get along well. Get over means to recover from a problem. For example, I know she's upset, but she'll get over it eventually. Get together means to meet. For example, let's get together Wednesday after school. Get up, meaning to get out of bed. For example, I get up at 7 o'clock every day. Give in, meaning to surrender or quit. For example, I won't give in to pressure from my friends. Give up, meaning to stop trying. So this puzzle is too hard. I give up. Go ahead, meaning to do or to begin to do. So why don't you go ahead and invite her to the party? Go back, meaning to return. He went back to the place and found his friend. Go over, meaning to review something. So let's go over the homework before class. Grow up, meaning to become an adult. For example, I grew up in China. Hang in, meaning to stay positive. For example, hang in there. I'm sure you'll find your phone. Hang on, meaning to wait. For example, hang on a minute. I'm on the phone. Hang out, meaning to spend time with someone. For example, I'm going to meet my friends and hang out on Saturday. Hold on, meaning to wait. Hold on a second. I think I found the answer. Lead to, meaning to cause to happen. So his research led to the discovery of a new species. Light up, meaning to become bright. For example, the sky lit up with fireworks. Log in, meaning to sign into a website. For example, I can't log in because I don't remember my password. Or look after, which means to take care of. For example, I have to look after my little sister this Sunday. Look back, which means to think about things that happened in the past. Looking back, I think the other project was more interesting. Look for means to try to find. For example, what are you looking for? Did you lose something? Look into, which means to try to find out about. For example, I need to look into it. I'll let you know tomorrow. To not care for something, which means to not like something. For example, I don't really care for opera. Pass away means to die. For example, I heard Kim's grandma passed away last Sunday. Prey on, which means to hunt and kill for food. For example, lions prey on zebras. Rave about means to talk or write very enthusiastically. For example, critics are raving about the new film. Rely on means to trust or depend on. For example, nowadays we rely on technology for everything. Run away means to escape or leave. For example, our dog ran away, or he ran away from the police. Run into means to meet someone unexpectedly. For example, yesterday I went shopping and I ran into my old teacher. Or it can mean to collide with something. For example, I wasn't looking where I was going and I ran into a tree. Stand out means to be noticeable. For example, I was the only one wearing purple and I stood out. Take off means to start to fly. For example, the airplane took off. Turn out means a result or means something that happens. So I thought everyone in my family had a cell phone, but I asked them yesterday, and it turns out my uncle doesn't have a phone. Wake up means to stop sleeping. For example, I usually wake up at 6 o'clock. Warm up means to prepare for exercise. So for example, I warm up before I go jogging. Work out means to be successful. So everyone liked the presentation. It worked out very well. Or it can mean to exercise. For example, I prefer to work out in the gym when it's cold. Okay, next we are going to look at some separable phrasal verbs. These are phrasal verbs where the object can come after the phrasal verb or can come in between the phrasal verb, either way. Back up, meaning to support. So for example, his friends backed him up. Call off, meaning to cancel. For example, they had planned a party, but they had to call it off because of the rain. Calm down, meaning to help someone relax. So for example, let's play soft music to calm the baby down. Carry out, meaning to do or complete something. So for example, the scientists are carrying out research on ancient birds. Check out, meaning observe or notice something. For example, check out my new phone. Cheer up, meaning to try to make someone happy. For example, why don't we get some flowers to cheer her up? Clean up, meaning to organize or clean. For example, can you clean your room up tonight? Cut down, meaning to make something fall to the ground. So he cut down the tree. Cut off means to remove by cutting. So, did you hear about the hiker that had to cut off his own arm? Do over means to do something again. So, for example, my brother spilled coffee on my poster, so I had to do it over. Draw in, meaning to capture or interest. So the book really drew me in. It got my interest. It captured my interest. Equip with, meaning supply with. So, for example, they equipped the astronauts with extra oxygen tanks. Figure out, meaning to find the answer or to solve the problem. So he finally figured the answer out. Fill out, which means to write information in a form. So when I went to the hospital, I had to fill out the form. Fill up, which means to fill something all the way to the top. So for example, when I went to get some water, I filled up my cup. Find out, which means to discover information. For example, how did you find that out? Or I found the answer out. Get across, meaning to make something understandable. So for example, for example, we need to add more ideas to get the idea across, Give back means to return something. For example, do you still have my book? Can you give it back to me? Give up means to quit a habit. For example, I'm giving up coffee or I'm giving up smoking. Hand in means to submit or give something to the teacher. For example, hand in the homework to the teacher. Hand out means to distribute something, to give something to many people. So here is all the information. I'm going to hand it out to many people. Let down means to disappoint. So for example, I really want you to come to the party. Don't let me down. Don't disappoint me. Let in means allow someone to come in. For example, they let him in to the party, or they didn't let him in to the party. Light up means to make something bright. So at night, the stars light up the sky. Look up means to find information. So for example, can you look it up in a dictionary? Make up means to lie about something or to invent information. For example, that can't be true. I think he made it up. Mix up means to confuse things or confuse people. For example, they always mix me up with my sister. They always confuse which one is which. Put off means to postpone something. So for example, let's put the meeting off until next week. Let's move the meeting from now until next week. Put together means assemble. So can you help me put this together? Can you help me put all the pieces together to make something? Take down means to remove something. So they took down the sign because it was too controversial. Take off also means to remove, but often with clothes. So for example, take off that coat. It's too hot. Take over means to gain control of something. So for example, he took over the company when his father died. He got control of it. Throw away means to put something in the garbage. So for example, he threw away the banana peel. Track down means to finally find something after a long search. So for example, it took me a long time, but I finally tracked down my old friend from first grade. Try on means to put on a piece of clothing to see if it fits you. For example, when you go to the shoe store, you try on new shoes before you buy them. Turn away means to reject something or refuse to admit something. So, for example, he applied for the job, but they turned him away. They refused him or rejected him. Turn down means to decrease the strength of something. So, for example, the TV is too loud. Can you turn it down, please? Or it's too cold. Can you turn down the air conditioner? Or it's too hot. Can you turn down the heater? Turn off means to shut the power off. For example, don't forget to turn off the lights when you leave the room. Turn on means to turn the power on, shut the power on. For example, turn on the TV. I want to watch the game. Now, turn up means to increase the strength. So, for example, I can't hear the TV. Can you turn it up? So, turn down means to decrease the strength. It's too loud, turn it down. I can't hear, turn it up. Warm up means to make warmer. For example, can you warm up the milk? And work out means to find a solution. So don't worry, I'm sure we'll work it out. Okay, the last one is 3-word verbs, otherwise known as phrasal verbs plus a preposition. These are all inseparable. Add up to means to result in something or become a certain amount. For example, the total of all the bills adds up to 200. Break up with means to end a relationship. So for example, she broke up with her boyfriend last week. Come down with means to get sick. So he came down with a cold. Come up against means to confront an obstacle. So for example, he came up against many obstacles during his research. Come up with means to think of a solution or find a solution. For example, she came up with an excellent plan. Cut down on means to reduce something or to do less of something. So for example, you should cut down on the amount of time you spend on the computer, or you should cut down on sugar. Get along with means to be friendly with. For example, my sister gets along with everyone. Get around to means to find time to finally do something. So for example, I finally got around to cleaning my room. I finally found the time for it. Get away with means that you did something bad, but nobody caught you. So for example, I stole money from the store, but I got away with it. The police didn't catch me. Get back into means to get interested into something again. Something maybe you were interested in the past, and then you stopped it, but then you're interested in it again. So for example, I stopped playing soccer 2 years ago, but recently I've gotten back into it. Get out of, meaning to avoid doing something you don't want to do. So there's something you don't want to do, and you find a way to get out of it. So for example, I told my teacher I was sick to get out of doing the project. Uh, give up on means to lose hope in somebody or something. For example, I've given up on trying to be a writer. Uh, grow out of means to change your mind over time, uh, usually because you're getting older. For example, when he was younger, he wanted to be a rock star, but he grew out of it one day and got a real job. Or it can mean you get too big for your clothes. So, for example, he grew out of his old jacket. He was a child who was still growing. Look down on means to feel that somebody is less important. So, for example, many people looked down on him because he had an unusual job. Look forward to means to be excited about something in the future. For example, I look forward to going on vacation. Look out for means to protect someone or to take care of something. For example, his mother is always looking out for him. She's always protecting him. Look up to means to admire someone or have a lot of respect for something. A lot of respect for someone. For example, many kids look up to their parents. Play around with means to try many different things until you find the right answer. So, for example, I played around with the computer until I finally got it working. Put up with means that there's something you don't like, but you don't say anything. You tolerate it. You don't argue with it. For example, even though the student was being very noisy, the teacher put up with it. She didn't say anything to him. Run out of means to use up everything. So, for example, can you get some more milk? We've run out of the milk. We've used it all. Stand up for means to defend someone. So, for example, he stood up for his sister. He defended her. And then to watch out for means to be alert for something or to be careful about something. So, for example, when you are hiking in the woods, watch out for the bears. Be careful about the bears. So those are some phrasal verbs, which I hope have helped you in your studies. There are, of course, many more phrasal verbs than the ones we have looked at. And so as you encounter phrasal verbs in the future, you will have to study them one by one. But hopefully this list has helped to improve your vocabulary a little bit.